everybody, and welcome to the Fortress Comic News, episode 84. I am one of your hosts, Chris, and I'm joined by a special guest host. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Okay, I'll go ahead and do that now. My name is Tony. I go by AKA Son of the Bat on the Super Friends podcast. So.
Yes. If you guys remember, I did a guest appearance on Super Friends podcast recently, so now Tony is coming to join us on this show.
Yeah, I'm excited. I've been listening up on you guys too, so let's see what we can get into.
Yeah. So how's everything been, man?
It's been good. Just, living our lives out here in San Diego. It's been hotter than heck this last 2 months. And if you don't have air conditioning, which we don't, you don't sleep. Unless you're my wife, she sleeps through anything. But it's been ridiculous. Went to Comic-Con last month, and then planning for LA Comic-Con in October. And I know Long Beach is coming up soon, so trying to figure out if I'm going to hit that up as well. But everything's going good. How about you? How about you guys?
Good. We just been doing the show, making videos, the whole shebang. Unfortunately, this week, the whole Comicsgate thing blew up, so a lot of my videos were not the greatest subject matter, but had to be talked about. But anyways, reading comics, living life.
Yeah, I hear you. And that whole Comicsgate thing, I'm just like getting bits and pieces here and there of what's going on. So I'm still kind of clueless about where it all started and kind of where it's going, but I started reading a little bit about it this morning. So.
Well, being a man who also dives deep into the video game culture, I also lived through Gamergate, which is essentially the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, this is the second time I've been a part of it, and it's mentally draining at times to see the stupidity and ignorance of people sometimes. But we're going to go on to happier subjects. So, to start, a little housekeeping. My run on the comic book rundown ended, but make sure you guys go check it out. Support those guys. Those guys are doing some really cool stuff. And not next weekend, but the following weekend, we are getting the release of Spider-Man on PS4. You guys may have seen that I announced I'm doing a live stream the night it comes out. That'll be the Friday night, I want to say it's September 7th at 9 p.m. Eastern time. That makes 6 p.m. your time, I believe.
Yeah.
So everybody make sure to grab your Mountain Dew, Doritos, whatever else you need, and come watch me play some Spider-Man.
Hell yeah, sounds like a good time.
Oh, yeah. So let's jump into the news. So first of all, DC announces that they're doing a daily live stream news show now called DC Daily. First episode is going to be hosted by Kevin Smith, and then they're going to have a regular host from there on out. What do you think about that?
Well, I didn't even know anything about it until you told me. So I'm just interested to see, I guess, what they're looking at in regards to the future. I mean, yeah, there's going to be people out there, of course, that need to know the, week to week that aren't as, into books as we are. And maybe that's kind of the platform that they're looking for to get more people in and be like, hey, this is what's going on now, and you can pick it up. But I mean, having Kevin Smith, of course, you're going to have a lot of people right off the bat, wanting to watch it. So I'm interested. I really want to see what direction it goes in.
Yeah, me too. I've always thought that Marvel does a much better job of being out there face front and talking to their consumers, especially on social media and podcasts, YouTube, stuff like that. So I'm glad to see that DC is actually jumping into that, because I would love to have a regular DC podcast or show with DC creators on it. That just sounds like a good time.
Yeah, for sure. Because right now, the only thing that I know of, and I could be wrong, is like for DC on their Instagram page, the day before their book's release, they show kind of what's going on. And I mean, those are kind of a dime a dozen. I mean, when the books do come out, you have, channels like, for me, I have the Hall of Justice on YouTube. That's what we do on Tuesdays. So, promote. But basically, we're getting plenty of that. So yeah, like you said, having creators, having, different minds coming together and sharing what's going to be coming out, I think that'll hype some people up, because DC's been kind of up and down for me. I grew up reading DC, and I've been gravitating more towards Marvel recently, but I'm needing them to pick up the pace a little bit more, because you have things like Doomsday Clock that's coming out late every once in a while. You have Odyssey that's still not out for Justice League, and it doesn't seem like it's too organized. So it'd be nice to know or be in the know with DC.
Yeah, and I really enjoy This Week in Marvel's podcast because they don't just get creators on the show, they get editors and behind the scenes people, and they talk about the Marvel get together they do every so often to talk about story, and it's just a really great behind the scenes, behind baseball, or if you will, talk about the industry and specifically their company. And I would love for DC to do more of that.
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, like anything, we'll just have to wait to see exactly how they plan it out. But one of the things we'll have to touch on are not just the books, but definitely the movies. Yes. We have Aquaman and Shazam coming out soon, and they look fun and they look like they're going in the right direction versus all of these dark, gritty, and then you have Justice League type films. But well, yeah, I mean, I'm interested to see what they're going to talk about for sure.
Definitely. And speaking of DC TV shows, the Doom Patrol show coming to their streaming service have announced who Robot Man is going to be voiced by, and it is Brandon Fraser.
Yeah.
So my first comment here is I was unaware Brandon Fraser was still alive and in the business.
Yeah. you thought he died in that mummy's tomb.
But I really like Brandon Fraser. I always enjoyed the stuff he was in. Like, the Mummy movies were fun. And he's done a bunch of stuff over the years that I liked. It just seemed like he fell off the map one day. And then his name pops up in this, and I was like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I mean, other than the Mummy, I'm trying to figure out other things that I watched that I enjoyed other than, that and George of the Jungle when I was younger. That's one of those movies that I can't go back to because I know I'm going to ruin my childhood. Yes. And be way too critical of it. And then, what was the other one? Monkey Bone? Remember that?
Yeah, I remember Monkey. I think Monkey Bone's the one that killed him.
Yeah, I think that's where you thought he died. But it's going to be interesting. I mean, personally, I haven't really read anything, that's Doom Patrol related. I know who they are, and with Vertigo coming back, I think that they're going to be opening up a title under that imprint again. But with this being a show through DC's, subscription thing, I'm kind of curious. Like, we all saw the Titans trailer, and a lot of people are just kind of sitting in their chairs like, this isn't fun. And so what direction? Again, it's DC. We don't know. No one knows. So
yeah, we talked a lot about that Titans trailer, and we'll see. They have a good history in the TV side, so I'm willing to give it a shot, even though I wasn't thrilled by it. Mm-hmm. But Doom Patrol, I've read Grant Morrison's run. That's about it. I actually want to go back because I recently read The Umbrella Academy. I don't know if you've read that. But yeah. I was always a kind of a negative Nancy about Gerard Way. I was never a big fan of his work in terms of his music. And then somebody finally convinced me to read Umbrella Academy, and I've completely turned on him. Like, that book is really awesome, and I would love to read his Doom Patrol because it really is... Umbrella Academy really is like an X-Men or Doom Patrol book done in kind of an indie way. So
right.
I would like to try that. Other than that, I don't have much experience with Doom Patrol. Obviously, we have the ongoing thing in this show about Codpiece, who was a Doom Patrol villain, who DC needs to bring back. And hopefully he'll be in the show. But the show itself, we'll see how it works out. It's a wacky idea, and I don't know how it's going to translate, but wackier things have worked, so we'll see.
Yeah, and I'm just curious to see what DC does. I mean, yeah, they're like, oh yeah, DC All Access, you get to see the old movies, old TV shows, new stuff, and whatnot, but just based off of the only thing we've seen so far that's already being made, the Titans, trying to make it gritty and edgy, I'm almost thinking that DC's like, oh, well, we'll have our own subscription service the same way that Marvel has the Netflix stuff. And it's like, stop trying to compare yourselves. Stop trying to make yourselves Marvel 2.0. Like, no, you're DC. Like, just look at your own stuff. You have plenty to work with, and go off that. Don't go off what everyone else is doing. And I think that's what's really like biting them, in the end. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. So I love DC. Like I said, I grew up with them, but every time I hear of something brand new coming up on the big screen or on TV, I'm just holding my breath.
Yeah, it's that old like adage that second place is always where the new ideas come from, and Marvel's been in that second place slot in a lot of ways for a while, and you've seen them back when Marvel Studios started and how they kind of reinvigorated the superhero movie. And then with all the recent changes they've made at editorial and through writing and all this at the comics side, I see a big swing coming comic-wise from Marvel, and it seems like DC is just playing a lot of catch-up. And that sucks because there's a lot of DC stuff I enjoy, and I really hope that Aquaman is the movie that does catch them up, because that's my favorite DC hero. But we'll have to see. Just like everything else, I root for them, and I hope that's what's going on. But we won't know until we get our hands on it.
Oh, for sure. And I'm just getting tired of giving myself excuses to try to like something, and because with DC, I've been having to do that, and it's like I'm done, guys. Give me something that's actually good.
So from this conversation, I want to know, because I feel like a crazy man around here. The Netflix Marvel shows. What is your opinion on them as a whole?
First seasons were great. Second seasons were slow. Defenders was Daredevil season 3. It was Daredevil and Friends, and I don't know. The only shows that I watched were Daredevil, first season of Jessica Jones, and then Defenders, and then everything else just kind of came with, I guess. I know a lot of people are enjoying Luke Cage, at least this second season, a lot more than the first. And I know it's a solid show, but it's standing on its own, kind of honestly like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. does, in a sense. Like, it's all supposed to be connected. It's all supposed to be related to the cinematic universe, but at the same time, it's not. There's no. I guess there's what do you call it? There's nothing that you're risking in these shows that has to roll into the films. Mm-hmm. If that makes sense. So that's the only thing that I have against it. They've been entertaining. I can't wait for the new season of Daredevil and Punisher. I mean, those are my favorite shows right now on Netflix that are Marvel. Those are just amazing. But yeah, there just doesn't seem to be any I can't think of the word. Not incentive, but
innovation.
There's no
innovation?
Not so much. There's nothing that they're having to really fight for. It's just kind of on its own, I guess. But
yeah, I've always taken those as their own corner of the cinematic universe, and I always feel like I'm an apologist for it, because I really love. I mean, Iron Fist, we won't talk too much about, but Daredevil is some of my favorite superhero TV, and Punisher, that first season was so great, and that's once again, that's a character I don't really care about, and they really made me care about him.
Same. Yeah.
And Luke Cage, even the first season, I absolutely love that show. I love the feel of it, and I always feel like I'm defending it to people, because everybody else is just like, I don't know, I couldn't get through the first couple episodes. Yeah. So it's always interesting to ask people about that, so I know if I'm going crazy or not.
Yeah, and I think also too is like, you have those people not like us who are either watching the movies and not the TV shows. So when they hear about it, they're like, oh, well, what's the point if they're not in the movie? Like, so we're having to explain, oh, well, this is this person, this is where they came from, this is when they started, and this is what they're doing in the TV show. So yeah, feeling apologetic, I 100% understand what you're talking about.
So other than that, I mean, any shows you've been watching that you're enjoying right now?
Honestly, I haven't been watching a lot of network television. I'm kind of excited to see where The Flash goes. I mean, what was it? I forgot the name of the new villain that they're supposed to be bringing in. And I don't have it in front of me, but there's been a lot of back and forth on his costume. There's going to be like no more chin strap, which to me makes sense, like functionally. Every time he pulls off the mask, they've been going off camera and then going back to him to show it. And it's like, okay, well, we know that didn't work out that way. But little, simplistic things like that, I actually appreciate. And recently, at the comic shop that I work at here in San Diego, we started playing movies and TV shows in the background. And we were watching the original Flash TV show. And he doesn't have that chin strap. So I'm like, okay, see, look, they've been doing it since day one. Like, let's just go back to that. But I've always liked The Flash since season 1. Other than that, I haven't been really watching anything else other than Legion, and that just finished up, about a month ago or so. And I know that one trips a lot of people out, but I love it.
So Preacher still going on. Absolutely love that show. Kind of, I'm not gonna go into too much detail because whenever Mike and I talk about it, it seems to be a lot more fun. But that show is just so good. It's hard to explain how much I love it. It's definitely my favorite show on the air right now. And then kind of non-comic geek related, but Netflix related. I got into this show called I Am a Killer. I don't know if you've heard of it.
Yeah.
And I have this. I really love listening to interviews with people. I don't care what their background is or it's just getting into the insight of another person, no matter where they are in their life. Just having an hour or something to hear their story. It's always been something that's fascinating to me. It's why I love podcasts, especially like Joe Rogan podcasts. And that's what this show is. It's an hour of them sitting down with these different people who are on death row and talking about the crime they committed and how they feel. And you get all these different ranges of people, from guys who are just sadistic and knew what they were doing and had a means to their end, to guys who are like, I really messed up and I'm so regretful every day. And so anyways, if you like that kind of thing, it's just a really fascinating show, especially since you get to look into the eyes of these people as they talk. Because a lot of the show is one shot, them just sitting there talking.
Yeah.
So that's been my kind of obsession this week. And
stuff like that's actually pretty good, especially since more and more I feel like people are like, oh no, certain things or certain people are this way and other people are this way, but keeping it kind of black and white. And so looking at people's situations, especially like you said, the show, they're on death row, like they're giving it their all. Like there's nothing they can really hold back at this point, and they're just letting you know what they were feeling and how they were acting and why. And for the most part, a lot of us looking at the other side of things is just kind of at face value, oh, he's a killer, he's a killer, he's a killer. But yeah, stuff like that does intrigue me too, though.
Yeah. It's fascinating because then you meet the guys that are just like, some of them who don't think they did anything wrong and are still trying to like pretend. Mm-hmm. It's just like, dude, you're in death row. But yeah, if you like that kind of thing, it's a great show. I highly recommend it. Netflix has been killing it on the documentary side, and I don't usually talk about them, but I love me a good documentary.
Yeah.
So not a whole lot of movie news. So let's jump right into the comic news. All right. So first, we're going to start with a couple digital services. It looks like Walmart is launching its own ebook app, and they are going to be launching with graphic novels in it. Any thought of that as a retailer?
I don't know, man. I mean, to be honest, we'll have some guys already come into our shop and be like, hey, are you buying this? And it's the Walmart giant paid, 100-page books that they're just picking up and flipping. And to be honest, I'm one of those that, like, if you can make a quick buck off of it, so be it. Everyone's trying to make money nowadays. If it works for you and you can actually sell it, go for it. But when it comes to digital, that's one where I'm kind of in the middle. Like, I appreciate digital print because I don't have to worry about getting the book damaged. I don't have to worry about having it sit out and someone, pouring something on it on accident, or my dog getting to it. But I still understand, like, the traditionalists, like, oh no, I love reading my books. I love holding on to it. And when you already have something like, Amazon, and their book service, and then was it Google Play and iTunes, they all are Apple, they all have their own kind of like digital book service. Like, understandably, it makes sense. Everything comes down to efficiency and saving time. So instead of having to haul around your books, your collection or whatever, it's right there for you. I mean, that's as simple as it gets, right? That's the main reason for all of this. So that I understand. But then when it comes down to, like I said, I work at a comic shop that's been around for about 28 years. And when people are buying digital print, then these little brick and mortars, there really isn't a way for them to adapt to something like that because they can't afford to own a service like that. They just can't,
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm of two minds because I do love paper like holding a comic in my hand and reading it.
Yeah.
I have over the past year or so come more accustomed to digital books, especially since we've been having more creators on the show, and that's how I get my books from them is digitally. I have jumped into Comixology Unlimited to get trades of books, but I still get my pull list every week. So to me, no matter what, unless they all die out, which fingers crossed that doesn't happen because I love my comic shop, I will always go to the comic shop to get my comics every week. And I've actually discussed this with our comic shop owner because he's a good friend, and he seems to think that this isn't affecting, at least to him, shops in the area as much, that a lot of people are going and trying this and then end up kind of coming back to the shop and going, well, I'd rather just read it physically. But at the end of the day, my feeling is that there's a group of people who really like digital and a group of people who really like physical, and to have more ways for digital readers to read and different services. I mean, competition is always good. So yeah, it's a double-edged sword. At the end of the day, I think it'll end up being a good thing, and I don't think it's going to be a huge detriment to brick and mortar shops when it's all said and done. But that might just be my optimism there too.
Well, and another thing too is like we're an interesting breed, comic book readers, because you also have that collector aspect of the whole culture. Either you read it because you love the books and that's it, but for the most part, you want it because you collect it too. Like, I don't care who you are. Like, once you have a book and you know that something awesome happened in it, you're like, oh, I have that book. I own that book. That's cool. Regardless of the monetary value, which sometimes is a plus, right? But you look at something like, oh yeah, I have the first appearance of Venom. I have the first appearance of, the Century something. Just I'm saying Century right now because he's getting big out there, just as of recently. But I think there's always going to be collectors, and there's always people that collect different things. So for comic books, I don't think that aspect of it's going to die down. But in regards to the digital print, yeah, you're always going to have those that are 100% just I do digital, and then the ones that are I just do paper. And then you have guys like us. We kind of do 50-50. And when we have our titles that we're pulling that are our favorites, you can't tell us any different. That those are going to be our books forever. So.
Yeah. I mean, as you say, one of my prized possessions that is always next to my desk, and even though it's a reprint, I still love having it physically, is my Star Wars #1.
Yes.
That is still messed up because Darth Vader has a green helmet. It's just having that as a Star Wars fan, as a comic fan, it wouldn't be the same just having a digital version of it. So, yeah, there is that aspect too, and I think there will always be that aspect.
Yeah.
So speaking of digital services, Inky Pen, they're launching their own service. I don't know who Inky Pen is, but apparently they're launching a comic service, and they're launching it on the Nintendo Switch.
Yeah, and see, that's the thing is like, okay, we were just talking about, okay, Walmart's getting a service and there's already all these different ones around, and now you got Nintendo. Like, I mean, I don't know. Like, who's still right off? Do you have a Nintendo Wii, or whatever it is?
Switch.
Switch now. Yeah. See, I don't even know which one it is anymore because I haven't played on one in forever.
I do own a Nintendo Switch, and it's one of my favorite consoles. It's actually the one I play the most in the house.
Okay, so now knowing that you have one, is that a device that you use for video games or for these additional services? What do you use it more for?
It is strictly a video game system.
And that's what it should be, honestly. I mean, yeah, we have, Netflix apps and Hulu and, Amazon Prime on all of these consoles now to watch movies and TV. But for a subscription service for comic books, like I don't know. I really don't know.
It's once again, it's such a gray area for me. I'm with you. Like, it's Nintendo Switch. It's a expensive hardware. It's a dual handheld home console system. Mm-hmm. But I sit there and think, like, if this is a Nintendo system, so a lot of kids are using it,
right?
If this gets more kids into comics, I'm all for it.
Oh, of course.
I don't think that's going to happen, but if it was to, that would be awesome, because I said it in the Chris's Comics Corner video we did the other day that we need more kids reading comics. The the readership is getting older, and kids just aren't reading comics. So if it works, fine, but I don't see it happening. It just seems like a weird place to put a comics service.
And the thing is, too, is with children, their understanding and development of what certain things are used for is pretty solid. In like, okay, I use TV to watch TV and play video games. I use the Nintendo to play those games. I use a fork with my green beans. I use a spoon for my soup. And so a kid's not going to... I mean, let me put it this way, too. How often do you use the browser on your console, the internet browser?
I couldn't tell you last time.
Right. So that's something that they put in as a function that we can use on any other device, but we don't specifically use it on something we play video games for. So what is going to entice these kids to read comic books on their video game device, on their console?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, I don't know what their plan is, but of course they're going to have to try it out to see if it works. And the more power to them, because like you said, I agree. I think there is definitely not enough young kids and newer readers coming out as there used to be. And a lot of that is because everything's being developed into something that's visual. And yes, comic is that medium that's both. So when you're just giving them one half of it and they don't have to deal with recognizing, certain things and putting in that effort when reading versus just watching a TV show, I don't know how that's going to do when you're throwing it on something where they're already planning on, playing Mario.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially, I mean, you look around, most kids today have some sort of tablet or something in the house too.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Yeah.
It trips me out. I mean, I know, like I said, we have one on the way, and those are things that I'm thinking about. Like, how long am I going to let my kid sit in front of a tablet? When am I going to let my kid actually touch a tablet or on the internet? What do they need to know that's on the internet when they're at 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, other than what school tells them they need to look up? Like, they can read a comic book. I'm going to buy them their comic books. My wife already has a library of how to speak, to your friends. She just bought some this weekend, and those are real books. I speak Spanish, so bilingual is definitely one of the number one things, but they don't need it. They don't need the tablet to do that. They really don't.
Yeah, those are tough battles. I mean, so yeah, I have two stepsons in the house, and it's a tough game to play because when you come home every week with your comics,
yeah,
and I'm talking, you're just getting started, but 5-6 years down the line, why don't you get me any comics? Damn it. And then you're playing video games, and they go, can I play some video games? No, you need to go play. But you're playing video games all day. Stop being logical, kid.
That's when you pull out the logical things that they figure out later on. Like, well, you kept saying because you're an adult.
Yeah.
That's really the only argument. And yeah, I mean, I look at things like that, and it's like no one's perfect when it comes to kids, but at the same time, giving that balance of understanding and giving them the reason, like, okay, well, I don't know. I don't have the kid yet, so I don't know what's going to happen. But, my hope is, hey, can I have a comic book? Well, what did you do today? I cleaned my room and did this. Okay, cool. Then yeah, we'll get one or two, And I think that's something that's a whole nother, conversation and podcast. But for us, it definitely does involve our favorite pastimes.
Yeah, welcome to the Dad Podcast, everybody.
Right.
So moving on. So we got some new comics that are being announced. We're going to start with Ironheart. Ironheart is getting her own comic once again, and this is coming from Eve Ewing and artist Kevin Lebranda. You like Ironheart at all?
Never read it.
So my only Ironheart knowledge comes from Champions.
Okay.
And I enjoy her kind of in that book, but she seems like...
I don't know why I drew a blank. Like, I knew who Ironheart was, but for some reason right now I was thinking it's a different book and different character than what I thought it was. So yeah, I know who she is.
Yeah.
I know what direction it's going in, but yeah, continue.
Okay. I enjoy her in that book, but I don't find her character very intriguing.
Okay.
She seems like kind of she's basically a young female Tony Stark that's a little bit more stubborn, a little bit less party. Mm-hmm. That makes sense. So to me, I don't know if I'll pick this one up, but good on her. It's great to see that character get her own book.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I know it's going to be picked up heavily, especially because of one, I know that you were saying right now that you didn't connect much, but there is a vast majority of readers that did.
Yes.
And if anything, one of the things I'm appreciating with this is that Marvel is looking at something and saying, okay, although we did cancel this and have the same name as a different character that existed that's been around for years, we're going to continue on with this one. And we're going to give them their own title and we're going to give it a shot. And I wish that was something that both DC and Marvel did more consistently and not have them be just another version of the original characters. So, you going all the way back to like, what was it? Young Avengers, where, what was it? Who was on that one? Was it Jim Chung? And who was writing that? Can't remember. But anyway.
So long ago, yeah.
Yeah, so you have a bunch of characters that like you don't really see much of the team anymore. And I thought they had something there. And it was just like filler for when the actual Avengers come back together and then disband them and then kind of move on. But with this, I mean, yeah, you can develop a new character. And of course, with the whole diversity thing, that's going to be a plus, I think. And of course, you have this is where it gets into the whole Comic Gate thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you don't know until you try. And at the same time, I think that's something the readers need to understand as well. Yeah. You can't just say, oh, okay, it's just another Iron Man. It's a female and it's going to be the same thing. We don't know. We really don't know. And we hope that it doesn't go in that direction.
Yeah, and this was another Brian Michael Bendis creation. And people that don't know, Bendis has adopted like 3 or 4 children of different ethnicities. And that was one of the reasons he created not only Ironheart, but Miles Morales' Spider-Man, and made them a person of color. So, yeah, I'm all for it. Like, the book coming out, the characters never really just connected with me. Yeah, I've always, I say that, and then whenever there's a number one, whether it's Marvel, DC, whoever, I usually check it out just to see, because you never know. I mean, Miles Morales, I like Miles better than I like Peter at this point. So you never know. But yeah, it's really cool. And yeah, the whole Confiscate thing. So you get into that. I don't think this was a form of forced diversity. Like we needed a black colored Iron Man or female Iron Man. But it seemed like it was what Bendis wanted to do at the time. And the character really connected with a bunch of people. And then putting her on the Champions, like the Champions book is so great because it's just that book that they go into a situation, and if it was an Avengers book, it'd be punch, punch, pow, pow, we leave. But they really look at it and go, well, how do we, like, there's no black and white here. Like, let's look around and see what's happening. So, yeah, all for that book existing, and I hope it does well. I doubt it'll be for me, to be honest.
Yeah, and that's the thing is like there's always going to be that group of people that it is for 100%. Like it's going to speak to them and like, oh my gosh, I know and I feel what's going on here. And I think one of the things that Marvel's doing that's actually a good kind of introduction to, diversity is the fact that we're getting that Shuri standalone comic coming out, I think in November. And so that's kind of coming off of the, popularity of the Black Panther film.
Yep.
And everyone loved that character. And so they're like, okay, well, let's tell people about what she's doing in the books. So that might be something where they also transition it into the films. We might see Ironheart. I think that'd be interesting. But having just different options out there for diversity and not just saying, oh, this is our one African-American / female character we have that's coming out. You should read it for that reason. I think that's good. They are trying different things. And that's why I'm like, okay, I'm watching you, Marvel. I'm seeing what you're putting out.
Yeah. And the original plan that really kind of jump-started Comicsgate to begin with, where Marvel kind of said, here's all of our classic characters, but they're not the people you know. So Captain America's a black man and Thor's a woman and Iron Man's a black woman and she's 14, and so people came to these books like, what the heck is all this?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's way better to say they're almost legacy characters where Ironheart is connected to Iron Man, is kind of Iron Man Jr., for lack of a better word, but she's Ironheart and she has her own book and has her own story. And I think it's a much better way to do this, to keep the continuity and the focus of the main characters while still giving these new characters with diverse backgrounds their own books.
Yeah, and look at it on the other side of things with like DC, where you have Batman and you had Dick Grayson as Robin for years, and then he became his own person without having to become Batman. And yes, he's been Batman off and on to fill that role because Bruce was literally not there and still not being comfortable with that position. So yeah, I think that Marvel has something in the sense of, okay, yes, it's definitely a legacy character, like you said, based off the original, but they're doing their own thing and they're going through their own learning curve, and that's really important, especially to, like we said earlier, to bring in those younger readers.
Yeah. So. And once again, everybody, not every comic book is for you, not every comic book is for me, but doesn't mean they shouldn't exist. So after that, speaking of a comic book that is for me, there's a new Star Wars comic coming, and it is about Han Solo as an Imperial cadet, and this is being written by Robbie Thompson. Are you a Star Wars guy?
I'm not a big Star Wars guy. I'm trying to get into little things here and there. I read the first issue of Beckett, and I enjoyed that. I still haven't seen the Han Solo film, but I mean, I'm reading it with Woody Harrelson's voice, so I'm pretty happy. He's one of my favorite actors. But I mean, this sounds interesting. I mean, it is Han Solo, so it's going to be fun regardless, I feel. What else has Robbie written?
I'm not too sure, to be honest with you.
Yeah, because I'd want to look to see what his style is and then maybe kind of go from there. Because for me, that's been one big thing kind of evolving as a comic book reader and collector is I used to do it based off the characters, and now I'm really doing it more off of the creative teams. So if I knew what else he's done, which I'm definitely going to be looking up after this and take a look, kind of dive into his other work, I want to try that.
Okay, so Robbie Thompson, I'm in based on him. He did Planet of the Apes Green Lantern crossover, which was fantastic.
Okay.
He did a book called Spidey, which I'm not too familiar with. He was also the writer on Silk.
Oh, okay.
If you read Silk. And then he's done a few like random like issues of Amazing Spider-Man, Doctor Strange.
Okay.
It seems like he's kind of stuck in the Spider-Man universe, though.
Yeah.
Oh, and he did some Poe Dameron as well. So he's been in Star Wars before.
Okay, so if he's been in and out of Spider-Man, who's very quippy and jokesterish, I could see him maybe doing well on Han, but I want to read his stuff. I can't say definitely, I'm excited. Yes, it has Han Solo, but I'm definitely looking at the creative teams on something like this.
Yeah, so this is the one thing in any medium that if it says Star Wars on it, I'm probably going to try it out. So I have read every Star Wars comic that's come out since the relaunch at Marvel.
Okay.
And every time they announce a new one, I'm excited. This one in particular, though, Han Solo, like if people who did see the Solo movie, they do a quick sequence of him as a cadet in the Imperial Army, or Imperial Navy, sorry. Mm-hmm. And it was kind of cool. I would love to see more of it, and that's exactly what this book is giving me. So doing more in the Star Wars universe, yes, I would like them to jump outside of the saga, but at the same time, just getting more of these characters, I'm so in for everything. And after reading who Robbie Thomas is, I think I'm in with that too.
Yeah, I mean, reading you telling me what those titles are, I'm definitely going to pick them up and see how I feel about it. But I mean, I'm sure it's going to do well. Again, it's Han Solo. Like, how can you go wrong?
And speaking of books, I'm going to check out, and I apologize to the artist here because I'm going to butcher your name, and I apologize. But it looks like Jason Aaron and Muhammad Asrar.
It is Asrar.
Asrar are going to be the first creative team on Conan at Marvel.
Yeah, Mahmoud Asrar.
Mahmoud Asrar, okay.
Yeah.
I'm terrible with names.
It's all good. It took me a minute too, because I think I was saying Muhammad as well earlier. And then you also have Isad Ribic doing I believe the covers.
Covers, yes, which is even better.
Yeah, no. So I'm not big into Conan, other than what I've seen in the OG movies. Like as I know that a lot of people love him because of how cult they became, I guess. But yeah, I just remember watching Arnold, running around with his sword, but and then James Earl Jones turning into a giant snake. But the thing that I'm excited about this is correct me if I'm wrong, but this is a title that's coming back to Marvel, right?
Yes.
Okay, so that's huge for me. And then the fact that it is Jason Aaron, Mahmoud Asrar, and Isad Ribic just gives me feels of Thor: God of Thunder.
Yes. I'm with you 100%. So I love the old movies. I've never read or watched anything other than I didn't even see the new movie that came out.
Oh, same.
So I have no affinity for Conan, but I do know that Jason Aaron on Thor, especially that first act of Thor, the God of Thunder, was him doing Conan, especially King Conan.
Yeah.
So I'm all for him jumping on the real thing and actually doing it. This will be the first Conan book I ever pick up based on the name Jason Aaron.
Oh, yeah, 100%. And it's cool because, like, if you follow him on social media, he's been waiting for this for years. Like, he's been taking pictures of his desk, and he's got stacks and stacks of like different volumes of Conan. He's got a replica of his sword on his wall, and it's like he was born to write this. So again, having a taste of that, like you were saying, from the first, couple of chapters of God of Thunder, like, oh, I'm stoked. This is going to be a brand new book that I know I'm going to be picking up.
Yeah, and God, Isad Ribic should do everything.
Yes,
like just draw everything. So, staying in the Conan universe, Roy Thomas is actually returning to Red Sonja with an OGN here in November from Dark Horse.
See, that's another title I haven't been picking up, and I really don't know that much about. But I didn't know that he was, or that Roy was had been writing it before. So it's something I gotta look into.
Roy Thomas, Red Sonja is basically a female Conan. I mean, that's kind of a really basic description from what I know. So I apologize to fans out there, but Roy Thomas, big time Marvel writer. Speaking of Conan at Marvel, when Conan was at Marvel, Roy Thomas was like the guy back in the day, and he did a ton of Avengers stuff. So him coming back to the character is a big deal for that fan base, and doing it as an OGN is perfect. I'm actually curious to know if Red Sonja is part of the Conan moving to Marvel or not. It seems like it's not because they haven't discussed it, but I thought that they were connected.
Well, this still says it's Dark Horse, right?
Yeah, but it does come out before January.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, if it's something, you're gonna have the hardcore fans that if this is something that he's been, related with, and they want him back, it's gonna take off right off the bat. But I'm not sure. I mean, I know our shop has plenty of Red Sonja. I haven't picked up anything, but it's something I'm definitely curious about, especially if it's something like you said related to Conan.
Yeah, I'm told the Gail Simone run is the way to go.
Okay,
so that's just what I've been told. So yeah, Conan, can't wait.
Yes.
Now we're gonna jump over to the distinguished competition. So it looks like Sean Murphy's been on Twitter teasing some images. And images of him drawing Batman once again. So, 1, are you down for more Sean Murphy Batman? And 2, do you think this is going to be a sequel to White Knight?
So, from what I read after White Knight ended, was the fact that they're going to do like a whole, what people were calling a Murphyverse, where it's going to be kind of an Elseworlds, and that's definitely what White Knight felt like. Was an Elseworld situation, and that's why I enjoyed it the most, because it kind of had its own threat without having to deal with the regular universe. So from what I've heard and what I've been reading people say is that this is kind of an extension to that, but not necessarily an actual sequel to White Knight. it's going to continue in that universe, but not necessarily a continuation of it. So I'm excited. Did you enjoy White Knight?
I absolutely loved White Knight.
It was so good.
Yeah.
I mean, other than the fact that like we got to see every single Batmobile that we grew up seeing, like it was just a crazy story, and it really kind of threw you for a loop in every page. Like it kind of jerked you around. There was so much going on, but at the same time, like Sean Murphy's amazing. Like he is fantastic, and I know that there's a lot of people that don't like him for odd reasons, but I'm excited for whatever it is he's coming out with. If he's continuing with Batman, I'm 100% on it.
Yeah, that book always seemed like a person who has been standing outside of the Batman book saying like, well, why doesn't this just happen?
Yeah.
Like, why doesn't he team up with the police? Why doesn't he do like? And that's what that book really did.
Yeah, that was the crazy thing about it, was that I have a friend who's in the Navy out in Hawaii, and he'll message me every once in a while, hey, has this ever happened in comic books? I'm like, well, it kind of did in this situation, in this title, back in this date for 2 issues. And then when this happened, I reached out to him like, you need to read this. Because he was always asking, he's like, well, has the Joker ever been a good guy? Or has the Joker ever gone sane? I'm like, you need to read this because this is exactly what you're asking.
Yeah. So that's what I thought too, basically, is that there was a Murphy world or Murphyverse, whatever you want to call it, and that he was just going to tell more stories inside there. It's one of the things I loved about what they pitched as Black Label initially. Mm-hmm. You know, it's been a little bastardized now, but it's still kind of there, where all these people are basically doing Elseworld stories.
Right.
And yeah, Sean Murphy doing more Batman, especially if it's of the White Knight vein, I'm all for it.
Yeah, for sure. And I know he's going to be doing like a variant cover for Batgirl coming up, and it's that costume that she had in White Knight, I think. So
awesome.
I'm excited for that too.
Staying with Batman, it looks like Batman the Outsiders is coming back. And it's going to be written by Brian Edward Hill with art by Dexter Soy, a creative team I'm not familiar with.
Same. And I need to read up on the OG, Batman and the Outsiders, because I have a few issues. My brother was more of a fan than I was. But I know it's been something that DC has been hinting at and has been holding off on for a while. So it's got a lot of people excited that it's finally happening.
Yeah. My biggest thing here was when they did New 52, something I think they really messed up on was doubling down on Batman. And that was basically saying like a fourth of the books coming out were Bat related.
Yeah.
So I hope that's not a direction they're heading in. But at the same time, Batman the Outsiders was always a cool team. And it seems like they're trying to reinvigorate the team. So I know Mike is probably giddy somewhere that they're coming back, wherever he's at doing his international business. But for me, I'm not even reading Batman proper on the week to week. I'm buying them in trade. So if it's something that's introduced in that and then seems intriguing, I'll probably check it out that way. But it won't be a week to week for me.
Yeah, same. I mean, again, going back to what I said earlier of like I'm following more the creators than the actual characters. The only Batman-related books that I am picking up are Justice League, Batman proper, and Detective, because Detective has actually been getting a lot better recently. But, I mean, Tom King has been doing an amazing job, obviously. So, yeah, I don't really know anything about this creative team. So I'll have to, again, look up what they got, give them a chance, and then kind of go from there. And I hope everyone kind of does the same thing, whatever book it is, especially if it's a group or a team that they don't know about. Like, hit it up. You might enjoy it.
Yeah, like I can't tell you how many times. I mean, I just recently read a Deadpool book that I enjoyed. Anyone that listens to the shows knows how much I dislike the character Deadpool. So anything's possible.
Right.
But yeah, the Tom King thing, like, that was a mistake of DC editorial in my eyes. Like when they started off Rebirth, and they remember when they did the month of Rebirth books?
Yeah.
And if you go back and look, none of the original creative teams are on the actual Rebirth titles.
Mm-hmm.
So I read a bunch of these and took them as like, well, this is where the book's heading and this is what the book's going to be like.
Yeah.
not realizing the creative team was switching. And so Batman was like, I don't know. And then it turns out that Tom King's taking over, and it's like one of the best books in DC. And so that's why I never got into it initially, but after the fact, I've been reading the trades, and I wish I was on that from day one.
Yeah, so Tom King's an interesting writer for me because, like, since the since the War of Jokes and Riddles, and like after that, I read his stuff. I'm like, oh, this is cool, and then I get to a point where I'm like, oh, okay, well, all right, I guess that's happening now. And then I read the next issue, or I hear about it, and I pick it up. I'm like, wait, what just happened? And then he's definitely an up and down for me. And he's not a writer for everyone, but specifically this last story arc that he did, that was 3 issues long with like the whole 12 Angry Men type situation. That was so good, you know, because I mean, it ended up turning into a conversation outside of comic books in regards to, is Batman an atheist or not? And I honestly said, yeah, okay, so Batman sits in the Mobius chair in New 52, calls himself a god, and he's an atheist, right? So, so I was like, okay, whatever. You guys believe whatever you want, but regardless, that storytelling was amazing. You know, it made, kind of like you were saying earlier about having people step outside of the cape and cowl and be like, well, what if this happened? And that's what Bruce Wayne was doing with the whole jury of like, you guys look at Batman as if he's the, you know, as if he's omnipotent. Like his word is law, but it's not. He's still a man. He can make mistakes. And when you hear it from the source, you know, as a human being, you start remembering again, oh yeah, you're right. Batman is human. You know, he's not superhuman. And so he does make mistakes. And it's him telling these people that he makes mistakes without saying, hey, I make mistakes. So it's like, damn, you know, this is crazy. So there's those stories like that Tom King just catches me immediately. And then Jokes and Riddles, I was, like I said, all over the place from like, I think I like this. And then the next issue, I'm like, I'm all right. This is okay. But yeah, it's been interesting. It's definitely been interesting. And just wanting to see where this new title, Outsiders, is going to go. You know, is it going to be as crazy and up and down as Batman, or is it going to be kind of linear? What do you think?
Yeah. Not knowing the creative team,
yeah.
I mean, I don't know if they're newbies. I don't know if they're just guys that are kind of, not to offend, but B-listers. I don't know where they stand. So I feel like it's going to fall in the, if you ever read the Aquaman, the Outsiders book they did, I think it's going to fall in kind of the linear aspect, and they're just going to explore a lot of Batman lore.
Okay.
But I could be wrong. I probably am wrong because everybody else in the world is much more versed on what's going on with Batman than I am, since I'm reading it. I am just about to start the War of Jokes and Riddles. So
okay.
We'll see.
Yeah.
But once again, I know Mike's somewhere just excited because he loves everything Batman.
Yeah. To me, it's like you were saying, it's DC is definitely going in the direction that Marvel did with X-Men, where every other thing is a Batman title, and every other book is an X-Men book over with Marvel, or Wolverine, to be more specific. But yeah, I mean, if they're putting out good stuff, they're putting out good stuff. But don't just bring something on, have it be with the same creative team until you guys cancel it, and then possibly not giving it a chance with someone new. You know, I look kind of at like Thanos and how that ended with Donny Cates doing, you know, Thanos Wins. And I was reading from beginning to end of that series, and when I heard it was getting canceled, I'm like, oh, well, this kind of sucks. I was like, how are they going to end it? You know, how are they going to end it? And now they're coming out with Thanos Legacy because it did so well. And yes, it has a tie-in with Infinity Wars, but they're like, yeah, Donny Cates. Everybody who read it was like, Donny Cates should have stayed on that, and they should have let it continue. We got a bunch of amazing stuff out of that. So who knows? I mean, maybe this team is like the new Donny Cates for DC. Who knows?
Let's hope, because we need more Donny Cates.
We do need more Donny Cates. I cannot get enough.
I love that man.
Yeah.
Donny, come on for episode 100. Do it.
Do it. I'll be on here. That's cool. If he's on here, I'll be on here.
So, yeah. So, I mean, speaking of comics, outside of Batman, what have you been reading?
So I picked up a couple of things this week. Of course, like I told you, I do have the YouTube channel where I go over the newest issues for that week. And in regards to independent, I wanted to say I was reading, what was it, Cold Spots? Did you read that?
I didn't. I actually didn't realize it was a Colin Bunn book until after I picked up my books.
Yeah, I didn't realize it until after I read the actual book. So it was interesting. I didn't know what direction it was going to go in. I just knew that it was coming out, so I was like, might as well give it a shot. And I've been really happy with a lot of Image recently. So Colin Bunn's doing a pretty good job. Kind of starts off with this old man in his house, basically saying to what I'm guessing is his wife, "Hey, why is it so cold in here? Why are you messing with the thermostat?" And she's looking out her window. She's like, "I'm sorry, I wasn't paying attention to you. I was just watching the kids play." He's like, "What are you talking about?" And then you kind of get the hint that the kids have been dead for a while now, but there's like these specters, playing around outside the size of children. And then it kind of goes to the main character, and he's like a private eye, and he's got to go to this island where crazy stuff's happening. But at the same time, the person that he's talking to, who's the vendor as well as the guy in charge of when the ferry comes in and out, he's talking to him at his shop. He walks out, and then this guy's dealing with a different specter that looks like his wife. He's like, "Oh, I loved you to death. I wish things were different." And then this guy at the end dies. Like, he completely freezes and his body shatters or something. So it's definitely supernatural-ish and horror and suspense and thriller all thrown into it. And that first issue, it was interesting. So I'm definitely going to give it a shot. But yeah, I've been pretty happy with Image right now with the stuff that they're allowing these creative teams to put together.
Yeah, first that sounds like a Colin Bunn book.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. Are you reading Weatherman?
Yes, I think we've been going back and forth on it on Twitter. It's just been so good.
Okay. That is you. Yeah, Weatherman's it's the best book out right now. It's just so good. And what Image is just allowing their creators to do, which is just tell their stories, is so awesome. And there's other independent companies that are doing it. Aftershock is another one. Speaking of Colin Bunn,
yes.
Alterna does a good job of it. Boom actually does a good job if you're reading their indie stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, the independent / creator owned aspect of comics has been just over the past 5+ years now, just been amazing.
Yeah, and it's been turning into, from what we've seen in the 90s, of, oh yeah, let's do what they've been doing but different, which is where we got like Cyberforce and stuff like that. And now we're getting, hey, you're a pretty, interesting writer or artist. Go ahead and put something together and we'll go ahead and put it out there for you. And we're getting stuff like Redneck. We're getting stuff like, Moonshine. Was it Gideon Falls, Oblivion Song, all this different stuff that's just kind of coming out of nowhere. And everyone's like, what is this? This is completely different. And that's what we need from all of these independent publishers, is something different. And that's why they're there, Yeah. And I'm enjoying it. Like, another one that I'm super excited about, and it's by Ryan Caddy. And I guess he's done like a couple issues of Punisher. But he actually came into our shop a couple weeks ago to give us his preview for his book that's coming out in Image called Infinite Dark. And it has this feel of, have you ever watched the movie Event Horizon?
No.
Okay. Have you heard of it?
It sounds familiar, but I'm blanking on it.
Okay, so it came out in like the late 90s, and it was basically like this team that was on this ship, and they find themselves fairly quickly going through this portal that at the end of the movie you find out was basically a portal to hell, and some of the craziness comes back to haunt them on the ship, and everyone basically dies. There was another movie called Sunshine, where you had a team of scientists that left Earth, years ago, trying to go to the sun and reignite it so that they can save the Earth. And they end up running into another ship that was the first one that had to basically do this job, and they never made it. Everyone thought that this ship had been destroyed. It lost contact. You find out that there was one member, it was the original captain of that team of the original ship, had gone crazy, had skinned himself, has been living on this ship his whole life. And then when this new team goes on, he's killing everyone left and right. But then they finally fall through. Everyone dies, but they also save the Earth. So it's super dark. This Infinite Dark has that feel of both those movies, and it's got me super, super excited. Like, it doesn't come out, I think, until November, but I am so stoked for it. Like, anyone who like gets their books through their shop, like, definitely ask your shop about it, because it's crazy. Like, just right off the preview.
That sounds interesting.
Yeah.
I'll have to let Mike know about that one, because sci-fi and horror, that's his wheelhouse right there.
Nice.
So, real quick, go through mine. So, Avengers 6 came out and Amazing Spider-Man 4 came out. Both still really great books in the middle of storylines. All I can say is they're awesome books, and check them out. Punisher #1. So, I don't know if you read the previous Punisher run, but Punisher had the War Machine armor, and he was doing this whole thing. And then somebody kind of says to him, like, you know, we're no longer willing to deal with you. You were a part of Hydra, which was the whole Secret Empire storyline.
Right.
Which was kind of a sad turn, because a couple of characters, when Hydra took over in Secret Empire, Deadpool and Punisher being two of them, were like, we're always on the bad side, so let's side with Steve Rogers this time, because he's always right. And they got screwed on that one.
Yeah, we all did.
So he decided that he was going to go through and he's just going to start killing Hydra operatives. And the last series ended with him getting captured and then being rescued by Winter Soldier and Black Widow.
Yeah.
And them going, like, we agree with your mission and let's go do it. So that's where this one picks off. And he's going after the Mandarin and Baron Zemo. So, Matt Rosenberg, I think, has been doing a great job on Punisher. Like I said earlier, it's not really a character I particularly care about, but he really got me into the storyline. And a lot of that is I'm just a huge Cap fan, and I love Hydra, and I love the idea of him trying to atone for what he did during that whole sequence. So definitely check it out. It's a lot of fun, and it's a great first issue, too. It really kind of just pulls you into the story lightly, and you don't have to know the previous storyline to get into it.
Yeah. Another thing with that one too, if I could just say quick, like, you had Iron Man in there trying to be all political with certain situations with the Mandarin, and then you have Frank Castle come in and screw everything up. And of course you're going to have Iron Man trying to stop him, being like, we had this way that we were going to do it, and now you're doing it your way. This is not helping again, you know?
Yeah, it's always great to see the Punisher interacting with the other Marvel heroes.
Yeah.
Speaking of Donny Cates, you're reading Venom, right?
Of course.
Okay, Venom, another character I don't care about, but Donny Cates, god damn it, you've got me to love Venom.
I didn't care about him until Donny Cates, yes.
Yeah. So Venom and Miles are flying out of this spaceship that the Kroll has them in, and Venom kind of realizes that he has these new powers because he was interacting with the Kroll and the rest of the Venom symbiotes, and he was connected long enough to kind of upgrade his abilities. And one of the things he got was wings. So now Venom can fly.
Well, that was something apparently that came out, like him first having wings was it Rune versus Venom back in the 90s? But people are jumping on it. They're like, oh, it's his first time with wings. And it's like, well, cool wings.
Yeah, see, that's how little I know about Venom, is I thought that was a new thing. And then he goes back to the Vietnam vet who we met in, like, the first issue, I want to say. Right, and you see him kind of stab him through the face and realize that it's not really a person, it's the symbiote trying to pose as that person. Right. And now, Krull's coming after everybody, so they decided they're going to meld together and try to fight him. So if you're not reading Venom, what are you doing with your life? It's so
seriously. Every time an issue comes out, our shop, legit, we've been selling out since issue 2. Like, we have no more back issues because everyone keeps coming in to pick it up. It's been so good that the first issue is already on its 5th print.
Yeah,
like, it is really, really good.
I know a guy who buys every printing, every cover.
Every variant.
Yeah, I don't know how he does it, but he's managed to do it.
That's crazy.
And once you're done watching the Hall of Justice show on Troy's YouTube channel, jump over back to ours and check out my top 5, because Web of Venom, Venom #1 comes out this week, and that's definitely what I'm talking about.
Was it VNAM? Oh, VNAM and First Host, doesn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, so we're getting hit with 2 different Venom titles. I know Donny Cates is going to be on the VNAM one.
Yes.
Artist-wise, I think Bagley's going to be on First Host.
Yes, and it's Rodriguez or Jimenez
on First Host.
Yes, no, on Venom.
Yeah. No, I'm stoked. Yeah, there's a lot of Venom, and I'm more interested in them now than I ever was.
Yeah, and it's funny because Cullen Bunn's been a big Venom guy for a while, and I've been a huge Cullen Bunn fan. But that still wasn't enough to get me on. It took Donny Cates, the handsome, sexy, amazing Donny Cates. He's coming on my show. So I got Star Wars Darth Vader #20. Mm-hmm. Basically, what this storyline's leading up to is Vader getting his own castle. We all know it, we all see it, but this is kind of the behind-the-scenes story of that. The big thing that happens here is he gets the Emperor rewards him with a ship, and it's the ship from Phantom Menace that he gets to fly around in. Mm-hmm. This is a Charles Soule joint. If you're not reading this and you're a Star Wars fan, it's the best Star Wars book coming out right now. It's so good. And I believe we talked about Sentry earlier. Are you reading The Sentry by Jeff Lemire?
Yes, I am loving it. And everyone around me is like, oh, it's a Sentry. I don't care. It's not my, thing, or I'm not interested, and I haven't been from day one. But this has been really, really good. And then, you basically have him kind of dealing with being mortal and then having the situation of turning into the Sentry and the Void in that dreamscape machine, I guess you can call it, right?
Yeah.
And the thing that I loved the most was the fact that there was that little super corgi that he had, like in issue 1, because I got a little corgi and now I know what I'm going to dress him up as for Halloween. But besides that, it's been such a really good read. And then in issue 2, we get introduced to that villain Cranio, who finds himself in that dreamscape engine thing, destroying everything that is in that world. And then what we come to find out in this issue was awesome. I mean, I thought it was crazy.
Yeah, so when we had Jeff Lemire on the show and I got to talk with him, it was before this book came out.
Okay.
And he was talking about how, because I'm a huge fan of his Moon Knight run, like that run was just so great. And he was saying, if you like that, definitely pick up Sentry. It's going to be a lot of that kind of inside a man's head, the fight between good and evil, and just what it means to both be the Sentry, but knowing that if you become the Sentry, that this destructive force known as the Void is coming.
Right.
And I didn't realize how literal he was there, because they literally go inside his brain and do this fight. The book's been fantastic. Yeah, I know very little about Sentry. I'm not a Sentry guy, but as we've talked about through most of the show, Jeff Lemire writing Sentry, I'll try anything Jeff Lemire. So I picked it up and it's been fantastic.
Yeah, it's been really, really fun. I want to see where else it goes, because like I said, you have that new villain Cranio, who like in real life, like he's a nobody.
Yeah.
Like, he's no one at all. And then in this world, he's like this mastermind super criminal. And so it's cool to see how people see themselves too, I guess.
Yeah, and I like the whole sequence of him being like, well, I got out of Max and I tried to get a job in my field, but nobody's going to hire an super scientist.
Yeah, exactly.
So my last 2 are Kickstarter books. I got a few this week. I got Mitch Hammer Construction Mutant.
Huh.
So this is kind of a weird superhero story where this guy who's a construction foreman gets hit with this, basically the radioactive ooze from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and grows a backhoe as an arm. And fights mutants. It's fun. It's a lot of punchy superhero stuff, but I really enjoy it. And the book is oversized. So, like, this is your normal comic, and this is...
Oh, man. That's almost like a magazine.
Yeah. It's, magazine size. It's like Golden Age size. And the book, the paper quality is great, too. It's the same paper quality as the new DC books. It's
Okay.
kind of that matte finish instead of the glossy.
Yeah.
And great. And then my personal favorite book of the week, I've been looking forward to this for about almost a year now. It's The Dweebiest Gang. So the Dweebiest Gang is Mr. Walrus, the peanut-free guy, and his ability is that he can touch anything and make it peanut-free. And then Mr. Nipples, who has stretchy nipples.
Yeah, you're definitely going to need those.
And they're a superhero team. And they go around fighting supervillains. It's exactly as it sounds. It's weird, it's stupid, it's funny, it's fun. And they know what they have and they know how to use it. So if you like that style of humor, I would check it out. My only dislike to it is where Mitch Hammer was an oversized. This one is a undersized. So once again, your average comic, this is Dweebiest Gang.
So it looks like a ash can.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of that. I like just the regular size or oversized.
Yeah.
But I understand independent comics can be tough.
Yeah.
I'm trying to live that life right now. So check it out if you can. So that's all I have. Troy, where can everybody find you on the internet these days?
So for our podcast, if you are on social media, you can really look us up anywhere at TSF Pod. That's for Twitter, Instagram, even smaller social media circles like Halanis and Vero. And then if you go to, iTunes, Google Play Music, Stitcher Radio, all that jazz, wherever you find your podcasts, you can just look up The Super Friends Podcast. And you can listen to us there. And then, I have my YouTube channel, which each episode I call Hall of Justice, HAUL. And it's still under the Super Friends Podcast. But every Tuesday, I try to release it late at night after editing, depending on how long it goes. But it's that week's brand new issues. And this week I went over Beast of Burden, Die, 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 number 2, Cold Spots, West Coast Avengers, which I don't know if you read that this week.
I did not.
I highly suggest it. It was a title I was not interested in at all, and it's hilarious. It is so good. We talked about The Punisher, Amazing Spider-Man number 4, Venom, of course, and Batman King of Fear number 1, Action Comics 1002, and Justice League Dark number 2. So check that out on YouTube.
Cool. Quick aside, I originally didn't want to check that book out because I'm not a fan of Gwenpool. But I read the story yesterday that there is a sexy version of MODOK in that book, and I will be purchasing a copy as soon as I can.
It hasn't come out yet, but I believe it's going to be like issue 3 or 4. But it's been kooky as heck, and I didn't know what to expect when I opened it up. And beginning to end, that was fun. That was really, really fun.
Awesome. So everybody, you can find the show at FCN_official on Twitter, or just go to FortressComicNews.com where you'll find everything Fortress Comic News there. All the videos we do, the podcast, everything is on that channel. And remember, 5 stars on iTunes, like, subscribe, comment below on YouTube, all that fun stuff. You know what to do. And make sure you check out Super Friends Podcast. Those guys are really cool, and they do some good work. So when you're done listening to our show, you can go ahead and jump over to theirs and give them a listen too. So I appreciate all you listening, and we'll see you next week.
Later.